Okay, hello and welcome back to the channel. We are going back in time a bit for this one to a really old Barcrest low-tech called Blue Moon on a £4.80 token jackpot. And this thing is emptiable. Now, for starters, just look at my long-term stats up here. Because I have done a little bit of playing about with this, like with a lot of these old methods, or any of these old methods. I had no idea at the time. I've said before that I had no clue about anything really until the mid to back end of the £15 era. So all of these older ones are a real voyage of discovery for me. So I have done a couple of dry runs at this just to check what I was told and try and get my head around what was going on, and you can see the stats that's produced here. This machine has had £539 in, it's had £551 out, and its target percentage is at 80%, so it's obviously running way over percentage here. There's something going on with it. And what I will show you here on this video is exactly what that thing is. This is a machine I do remember playing. I absolutely remember playing this back in what must have been, I'm saying, 91 and 92. Not only was this machine very popular in arcades, there was a lot of these in arcades. At the time, even pubs would have low-techs. You would find low-tech machines in pubs. And I remember these being around the place. And I do remember playing them. So, turns out that there was an emptier on them. A little bit of a slow emptier. It's not the quickest thing in the world to do, but you can get there. And like I said, I've gone through a couple of full cycles of this now, and I'm fairly content that this works. Don't even know if this got chipped out, but certainly on the version of the ROMs that have been running for forever, really, in the emulator, it works. I couldn't even remember what layouts we had for Blue Moon. I had it in my head. It was a bit of an old ropey DX, so you can imagine how delighted I was to find that there's a Pook DX for this. So we've got a splendid DX. I think it's back from, looking at the dates on the files, this DX is back from 2008, so it's like 10 years old, but we do have a Pook DX to do this with, which is great. So, let's get going without further ado, as they say. Let's get going. So, first thing we're going to do. Now, let's just imagine, by the way, that we've walked up to this machine in a pub or an arcade. We don't know its history. So, there are one very specific thing that we have to do to start with, and that is RAM reset it. And that's the key to this, because this machine is happy from a RAM reset. That is the state that it was pushed out of the factory in before it had had any play, when it was brand new in an arcade or the first time it had gone to a pub and it had been RAM reset. This machine is happy. It's not like streak happy, but it's happy. You'll get a little sort of enhanced period of play from a RAM reset. It'll then go on a take for a little bit and it'll kick out another sort of semi-streak, which will yield a profit of something in the region of £15 to £25 in my experience with what I've done here. And that kind of makes sense, because if a brand new machine turns up in an arcade, it makes sense that the programmers have said, okay, let's not just have a machine that's going to take the piss as soon as it turns up in an arcade and the regulars play it. Let's have a machine that's in a fairly good mood. And this machine, from a RAM reset, is in a good mood. So the thing there is, well, that's useful. How that's nice to know, but how does that benefit me as the player? Because a machine only ever gets one. Well, but technically speaking, a machine only ever has, a real fruit machine only ever has one RAM reset when it's brand new. Thereafter, it's got a battery backed up RAM on the motherboard, and it saves where it's up to. It saves its stats. It knows what it's doing, and it will only ever have that one RAM reset. Of course, it's a trivial task to do it in the emulator. There's a RAM reset option on the config screen, or you can just delete the RAM file. But how, as a player, would you do that? Even if you knew that this machine was happy from a RAM reset, what are your options as a player to actually do that? Well, that's what we're going to see here. So let's just start playing it. And this is the first thing that you would do if you found this machine I guess. I'm just extrapolating because I never did a real one of these. So, okay, we've got a win opportunity here, and what I am going to do here, and you'll see, I'm going to have to be quite quick because this is only a £1 win. Now, in the real world, this would be a plug, and we've talked about the plug before. We know what a plug is. In the emulator here, I'm just going to press Control R, which is our simulated plug. So I'm going to nudge in this win, and as soon as it starts counting up, and whilst it is still counting up, that's a critical thing, has to be while the win is counting up, I'm going to reset the machine. Now, what you'll have seen there is I had 5 credits, and I had 40p in the bank. So after a turn off and on, what machine should do is remember what was going on. It should remember that I had credits in the bank, and it should remember that I had a win counting up. What it's actually done is a RAM reset. This is how this machine would be the very first time it was turned on. If you bought this machine from Barcrest, plugged it in, turned it on, this is what would happen. And you can tell it's a RAM reset because it's forgotten the real positions. This here, the mixed moons, red, yellow, red, that is the RAM reset position. If you delete the RAM file from your folder and load this layout in, this is what will happen. You can also see there that it's lost my credits and it's lost my bank. And I guess you'd need to know that what you were looking at here, but take my word for it, this now is a RAM reset. As simple as that. You get a win, whilst it's banking up, you reset the machine, or you plug it in the real world, or spark it. I think you could spark machines back then. And now what we should find is, so I've put £2 in up to now. I'm £2 in. Let's put another £5 in. And what we should find is within a few credits is that this machine is happy to start giving us a few wins. It will not go on a streak. It won't go on a full streak. If you were playing machines back in this era, or you played them in anger in the emulator, you'll know what a streak looks like on these old £4.80 jackpot machines. It is win after win. It is jackpot after jackpot. And it isn't that. It's not a full streak. It's almost like Barcrest. That's got to be 220. You know, Barcrest, accidentally or on purpose, I don't know. I mean, we're just speculating there, but one way or another, this machine came out the factory, as it were, in a reasonably happy mood. They did it deliberately would make sense to me, because you didn't want a brand new machine to turn up in an arcade and it fleeces everyone. Now we could do the ambitious hold there. Or we could do we'll do the slightly less ambitious hold there, I think. And we have got 220 up there. So yeah, I think it would make sense that to have your machine when it turned up and it was brand new in an arcade, that people saw that it played nicely the first time it was in there. Or it may well just be that it was something to do with the compensator or whatever, that from a RAM reset, from internal statistics of 0 in and 0 out, the machine just what have we got there? I think it's the machine just happened to go into a slight overcompensation mode. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I think it's 120 there. Now, what I found from my couple of run-throughs on this, and the guy who explained to me said that there were a couple of different ways that people used to do this back in the day. What you can do is take this first little flurry of wins out, and then when it stops, and it becomes pretty obvious when it stopped doing it, when it stops, you then just do a RAM reset. The very next time that you get a win, you do a RAM reset on it, and then just repeat. The other way that you've got is you take this initial flurry of wins out, and then it'll go in a little dead patch, and then what you can then do is see that dead patch out, and it will go on an almost kind of streak. Not a streak, but not a million miles off. That'll give us 3 or 4 nudges after the respin there. Well, that's slightly annoying. I can't actually, so I'm going to have to do that there, aren't I? And from my couple of dry runs with this, what I found, see, you could go for the super ambitious hold there. If I hold them two, it's going to give me one nudge, and that didn't work out for me there. Or you can kind of hold them all, cancel, let them spin for 3 or 4 nudges. But what I found was that you can basically take it out to the bank limit once off this sort. Oh, that there is wild, by the way. That one with the blue. I guess that's the title of the machine, the Blue Moon. That one there is wild. But what you can do is take it out to the bank limit once. Oh, there's not going to be another one up there, is there? And then, so you collect 30 quid. 30 quid's your bank limit. And you're probably going to be, I don't know, even-ish at that point. There we are. Now that counts there as a sort of boxed 7 is the way I think of these, even though it's a cloud. Are we going to get lucky? Yes, we are going to get lucky. I always used to like it when that happened. And you know what? To this day, 27 years later, I still don't know what the absolute correct thing to do was when you had 2 box symbols the same. Because sometimes if you held the 2 and then span the other reel, it would let you drop it in like it did there. But other times it'd kind of dick you off and just give you a £1 win or something like that. Still don't know to this day what the correct thing to do. So, where was I? Sorry. I think you take it out to the bank limit once, which is 30 quid. You collect your 30 quid out. By then, give or take, it's probably going to be on a little bit of a dead patch. But then if you see that dead patch through, you can then get another enhanced sort of period where you'll be able to max out the bank again and get another 30 quid in the bank. Now, at that point, that is the time then to do the RAM reset. That's when... Oh, there we are. So shall we get ambitious again? See, and it didn't work there. It failed completely. Oh, there we are. It didn't even give me a... So, in total, you can take roughly about 60 quid out of it. You can get 60... Oh, that's nice. Hold after nudges. You can get 60 quid out of it. And then once it's had it, once that second... Oh, that would have been a nice hold. Once that second enhanced period has kind of finished, that would have been a nice hold as well. What you then do on the very next win, once it's obvious that it's gone into tight play, you then do a... What have we got there? You then do a RAM reset on it, and you basically just go back to the start. Because what you've got to remember here is that as the player, we can effectively perform a RAM reset on this machine whenever we want to, simply by plugging it or resetting it when it is adding a win to the bank. Let's get ambitious again. Yes, thank you very much. We'll have that. It's kind of as simple as that. That's all this method really revolves around, is this machine has value in it after a RAM reset. The weird thing about this is, as the player, we can RAM reset this machine whenever we want to. All we need to get is any win, doesn't matter what win it is, any win on the pay table there, and just reset the machine, plug the machine. It will then RAM reset. You'll lose what's in the bank and you'll lose your credit. So obviously you don't want to do a RAM reset when you've got any bank or credits in it. And you can then go again and you can take the rest. You can take that value, that RAM reset value, out of the machine again. So let's collect that out. So, I mean, our stats at the moment aren't particularly amazing. Let's go to profit or loss. I think we're like £1 or 2 up. Nothing too impressive. But what we should do now, a little sort of, oh no, not too bad. Not too bad. We're £7.40 up. It's not amazing, but we are in profit. But this machine should have a little enhanced period now. I might have to go through a few dead pounds, but there should be an enhanced period in the not too distant future. Okay, so we'll just put another £5 in. And hopefully this machine will behave itself. I have done kind of... couple of full cycles on this, and it does seem to behave itself fairly consistently. that the chap who gave me the information about this kind of described it very much like this as well. So I'm hoping it will behave consistently for this video. So let's have a look. What we should find is that we're able to build the bank up after a short period of time. We'll have a little sort of a mini kind of streak, and we'll be able to get the bank maxed out again at 30 quid. What it should start doing, and I'm going with the should here, what it should start doing after a few quid through it, where it kind of looks like it's dropped on its arse, we'll start getting holds after nudges, we'll start getting good box holds, all that kind of thing, and we'll be able to build up a decent bank again fairly quickly. And I think the key point there is that, to my mind, it seems to be better to ride it out for the second sort of wave, as it were, rather than take that first profit of, you know, like a tenner or something like that and then do a RAM reset, because it does seem to have this second decent pay period baked into it, not that far off the RAM reset. It may take a few more pounds through it, or of course it may make a complete, there we are, hold off nudge, it may just make a complete liar out of me and not do it at all, but we'll stick with it. And there we are, but hopefully this should be it now. It's a little bit variable on what it does. It doesn't always follow exactly the same pattern. I've had it do all sorts, like just drop the jackpot in. I've had it hold the jackpot, which sometimes it just doesn't seem to do, that kind of thing. So there is some kind of semi-randomness in there. It isn't 100% consistent. It doesn't always do the same thing. But the basic pattern, RAM reset, enhanced period, little bit of a take, enhanced period, does seem to be fairly consistent. What have we got? Well, nothing there really, have we? So we be super ambitious and go for a jackpot hold. I mean, that didn't work. I guess you'd have to be mindful as well that a real machine would have a balance of, you know, it would have a certain amount of cash in it, and it would have a certain amount of tokens in it. And I guess what you'd want to do is try and play intelligently enough to get both of those kind of pots out, as it were. Got to remember that that blue moon in the middle does act as a wild symbol, which I have a habit of forgetting sometimes. You've got to be slightly aware of it, because sometimes you can get better wins than might be immediately apparent. So what I would hope here is that we can get this bank up to 30 quid without a huge, that's a nice 240, without a huge amount of effort. The other thing that you've got to be aware of is doing on this second little enhanced period, which we are in now, you've got to pick your moment to do the RAM reset on it, because if you absolutely drain all the value out of it, I had it go £10 for a win, which of course really eats into your profit if you've left it in the state where you need to, because you need to get a win to do the RAM reset on it. So if you get a little bit too greedy, you can then lose a tenner of your profit back, because of course you need to get a win to be able to do the RAM reset. The kind of figure that I had sort of settled on in my mind was two £30 banks, but maybe we'll have to slightly modify that here, but I think we should be able to take this out to, there we are, to a £30 bank. And obviously, as I said before, you don't want to be doing the RAM reset on it until you've taken your bank out, so we'll start just putting £1 in at a time here, I think. There we are. I mean, in my experience, if it's holding after nudges, it's still reasonably happy. It's when it just stubbornly refuses to hold after nudges and will just begrudgingly drop in £1 or let you nudge for £1 that you're probably at the point where you want to be doing the RAM reset on it. But you've got to pick your drop-off point with, let's just see if that holds, which it hasn't. So you do need to be slightly careful and just try and, I think, get a feel for when it's like a begrudging win that it doesn't really want to give you. So then, well, I'm going to let that fly. I'll collect that. But I do need to be mindful here that I'm probably not a million miles off the point where I would want to do a RAM reset on it. On my last dry run, I got a little bit greedy, overcooked it a little bit, and found myself thinking, you know what, I'm going to do the RAM reset on the next win, and it then wanted a tenner for the next win, and that was clearly a big hit to my profit on that cycle through. So we'll collect that out. I am getting to the point now where I'm thinking about doing the RAM reset. That's why I'm collecting out my bank on a regular basis. You can see there, profit £22.60 at this point. And I may actually do, and I'm hoping I've not just left it a little bit too long. Okay, so we were 22.60 up, and I was very much thinking I'm going to do, well, let's just go for the £2 there. Very much thinking I was going to do a RAM reset on the next win. And it may well have been that I wanted to do a RAM reset on the last win. Okay, we're going to do it on that. It's adding up, so we're going to lose that £2 win. I had three credits in. We're going to lose that. So, look at the stats here. £19.60 up. That's the first cycle. And what you're going to see here is it's going to go back to RAM reset reels. We're going to have those mixed moons on the reels. We're going to have lost our credits. There's going to be nothing in the bank. We're £19.60 up. And now we basically do the same thing. So we're kind of £20 up, just about £20 up. And we can now do that again. We can just go right back to the start. We should have a machine that's happy to chuck a few wins in right from the off, or pretty much right from the off. It'll go dead for a little bit, and then we'll get that kind of little enhanced, almost a streak but not really quite a streak again, and we should find that we're another 15, 20, maybe even £25 up, something like that, depending on how it rolls. So let's just see what happens here. I'm going to go off my... Well, there we are. So there we are. I can be super greedy, hold that, and it will give me one nudge, and you've got to hope that it kind of puts that there, or just cancel. Let's cancel. Oh, that worked a lot better there because it got me a jackpot, so that's fine. If anyone knows what the actual correct thing to do there, please do leave a comment, because I never knew. And to this day, I still do not know what the correct answer is to do on that. So there we are. That's a jackpot. And what I'm going to do here is build this bank out to £30. Once it hits £30, I'm going to collect it. At which point we should be into the sort of dead period. And then we'll have to ride that out to the next sort of enhanced period and hopefully be able to get... Is that going to hold? No. And hopefully be able to get another £30 in the bank. So let's have a look. I mean, there's not a huge amount of these. Oh, that kind of get the two of a kind there. But I find these, I've got to say, I personally find a lot of these older ones particularly fascinating because I just never did them. Basically, anything that I do a video on that has got a jackpot pre £15, so that's your £4.86, £8, £10, I did not know about at the time. It's as simple as that. All of these things I'm kind of doing with a little bit of pie-eyed wonder in a way. Oh, there we are. That's one nudge there for, and that's the wild, isn't it? So that's 440. A little bit of pie-eyed wonder because I've said before that these were that era, the £4.80 to the £10 jackpot era was my, call it what it was, catastrophic addiction era. So to see these things in the emulator all these years later, to understand that there were these things going on, that this is the kind of stuff that was possible, it's slightly sobering in a way. It's like, oh my god, I never had a chance. But it's I think I've said that hell as well. I think I've said before as well. In a way, it's almost a little bit comforting to know that, to know, you know what, this was never a level playing field. This was always about those who knew and those who didn't know. You were not having a fair gamble. This was not a fair transaction. You were not putting money into these machines and just taking your chances. That's 3 nudges. And just taking your chances along with everyone else. And it's exactly the same today, even in the £100 jackpot era. Either you know stuff or you don't, and if you don't know stuff, you're gonna have a pretty tough time of it. That's not to say that you can't spawn out sometimes. You can't just get you can get lucky, or you can get a machine that hasn't been, done by somebody who knows how to do it for a while. But fundamentally, it hasn't changed. You either knew the tricks, or you know the tricks, or you don't. And it was just as true when this machine was around as it is today. And I mean, if I've got any anger about this, and anger is no use anyway, because it's not going to change anything. It's not going to go back and retroactively fix the past. I think I've got but at the same time, if I've got any anger in me about this, it's not directed towards the players. It's not directed towards the players who were doing these machines. It's directed towards the manufacturers who had. It's like the old meme, isn't it? You had one job, and there's a picture of something being spectacularly fucked up to demonstrate that this was all you had to do here and you couldn't do it. And I feel the same way about fruit machine manufacturers over the years. And frankly, they're not really any better now than they were back then, because all they had to do was make these machines and have them work properly. Let's be honest, they just had to make them work properly. They just had to. So if you are rolling up, putting a few quid in them, you were having a reasonable chance. You were having a reasonable gamble. You were getting your amusement with prizes experience. That's all they had to do. That was it. That was their. You had one job. The single thing that you make, the single thing that your company produces, that your whole business is predicated on, all you had to do was make them work properly, and you couldn't fucking do it. And this here is the result. And I mean, I've done plenty of videos on this channel. I have previously talked about Cheerful Pessimist. I think what I'll actually do is just put a link in the description of this video to Cheerful Pessimist channel, just if you're not aware. He was a pro player back in the sort of earlier days, and he's talking about a lot of the videos that he's done that I haven't talked about, because I don't particularly want to double up on some stuff. So do, if you haven't already, go through Cheerful Pessimist videos. Also a guy called On a Bucket who's got a channel. He's a more recent player, and he's talking about a lot of stuff through the sort of £25, £35, £70 era. Even stuff that, like alleged random 500-pounders had on them. All that kind of stuff. I mean, the constant here between, I think, my channel, Cheerful Pessimist, and On a Bucket, is that these things have never worked properly. They just have never got these things working properly. You wouldn't leave these people in charge of a toaster, frankly, because they burn the house down. They just... Doesn't matter if it's a low-tech or a high-tech or an inverted commas random machine. And it doesn't matter what the company is. I don't care. Barcrest, JPM, Ace, BWB, whoever it may be, Project, whatever. They all have dropped the same kind of clangers time and time again over the years. And here was a machine that maybe somebody worked this out. Maybe someone legitimately worked this out. Say, you know what, there's this. And I guess because plugging was a thing. Because turns out plugging and sparking was such a common thing. I mean, I never knew. But plugging and sparking was such a common thing that people had kind of learned that you could get machines to do unusual things if you plugged them or sparked them. That I guess people would just try. Players of the time would just do that. They plug machines or they'd spark them at certain times when a win was added into the bank or whatever, and just kind of see what happened. Because, I mean, I haven't done multiple videos on plugging. There are a lot of older machines that plugging works on. I mean, I don't want to just do too much repetition in that regard, but I mean, the thing with this is that you're doing a very specific thing when you plug it, is that you're actually invoking a RAM reset. Whereas with, say, Monopoly Deluxe, which I did a video on 6 weeks or so ago now, what the plugging did there was the win that you had adding up was free, and the state of play of the machine was not affected, whatever. So I don't, you know what, I don't blame the players who worked this out, because let's go back to this machine here, the machine that we actually got in front of us, I suppose. We get back to the subject in a way. I remember these Blue Moons and other Barcrest low techs at the time giving me a couple of very, very serious kickings. I can't honestly say if it was a Blue Moon, but it was one like this, maybe double nines or something like this, that a pub in Radcliffe had. And I think I had about 15 quid left on me for the rest of the night out, and I just lost the lot in a Barcrest low tech, £4.80 jackpot, just lost the lot, didn't get a single win, and that was it. My night was over prematurely, as was often the case back then. And I remember thinking at the time, how is this possible? How can I know these things streak, I know they've got a streak in them, but I don't understand how I am losing this much, how it can't even have like a £1 win or a one. It was literally just, you know, like £15 of dead credits, no nudges, no holds, no opportunity to do anything. And what it occurs to me was, because I think it wasn't unique to Blue Moon, I think there was a couple of sort of semi-clones of this that this also worked on. What it occurred to me was that somebody had probably done, what's occurred to me retrospectively is that somebody had probably done the method on it, and they'd cycled it round, RAM reset, and they timed it just perfectly when they did the RAM reset after the sort of second enhanced period, and they left the machine alone at exactly the right moment, and I walked on after that. And that's where you've kind of got no chance. You can't compete with that. If you don't understand that machines are doable, if you don't understand that things like plugging and sparking are a thing, if you don't understand that these machines can be manipulated to do things outside of what they're coded to do, then you're not playing on a level field, and you're going to lose badly. And like I say, I placed the blame for that quite soundly at the manufacturers, the people whose job it was to produce these machines, and at the very least just have them work properly, which they clearly couldn't do. And you know what, I mean, fast forward into the present day, I know people take the piss out of Betcoms. You know, I've done a video on Betcoms, undignified Betcoms. I know people take the piss out of Betcoms and all the various clones across all the various manufacturers, but I'll say one thing about those machines is they actually kind of work okay. I mean, yes, there's the force. If you know, that's a jackpot, isn't it? I mean, yes, if you know about the force, then you can force them. But that's the closest those things get to a method. And if you know how to force them, you're basically on a level footing with everybody else who plays that machine, because the code on those things is actually pretty solid. It seems to work. Those machines seem to manage their percentage okay. They can't be left in this state where they're absolutely spanned, completely on their arses. And they are the closest thing. Thinking about it, I mean, if you're not clued up, but Betcoms and clones are about the closest thing that you can get to a fair game in the AWP market. And against that backdrop, it doesn't really surprise me, frankly, that they've just been sort of cloning the code base since the £25 jackpot days with jackpots that rock and roll. Because you know what, it works, and it's not doable. They've hit on something that actually, frankly, functions correctly as an AWP. It will stick to percentage, and it will give sort of everyone a half decent chance of a decent game. Which all these old ones, I mean, I know it's great, it's very interesting to talk about these and understand what was going on, but I think it's increasingly clear from the stuff on my channel, Cheerful Pessimist and On a Bucket, was that if you didn't know this stuff, if you didn't know the tricks, if you didn't know the methods, if you didn't know all the various ways in which these machines didn't work properly, and I'm going to keep saying that because these things didn't work properly, they did not function as advertised. And I don't care if it's incompetence or corruption, because it was the job of companies like Barcrest to make sure their shit did what it was supposed to do. It's like having a car where the wheels randomly fly off, or the steering wheel comes off in your hand, or the windscreen cracks, or whatever it may be, but the heater just stops working. It's, these things have got... Fruit machines have got a fairly limited set of things that they have to do, functions that they need to provide, and give or take, they've never got it right. They've always been, I would say, defective. They've always been malfunctioning devices to a greater or lesser degree. And that's where I'm at with them. And that even just a basic low tech like this, how far wrong do you think it would be possible to go with this machine? It's got, like 7 wins, it's got no features, it's got 6 buttons for the player to interact with, and they got it wrong. They still fucked it up. I mean, that takes some doing, surely. Okay, I think I'm probably at the point now where I might RAM reset this again. Let's have a look. Sorry, I was getting a little bit aerated there, a little bit... like I say, it's my frustration here is not directed at the players. It's directed at the companies that had a duty of care, a basic responsibility to produce products that worked. So, after the second cycle, where we're up to, we're 43 quid up. I am now, you see me stats up there, I'm now probably at the point where I would do a RAM reset on this. I may have even, possibly supposed to have done it on that last win. Let's see if we can get a win before I am less than £40 up. As I said before, though, if you catch this, oh, there we are. So, I could get super greedy. I could get super greedy and see if it's... okay, you know what? I'll do a RAM reset on the 120 there. Ow. Oh, sorry, I've still not quite got my voice back properly. Try not to cough and splutter too much on the video. Now, what you will see here is that this does go back to those RAM reset reels. And I think I've done enough now to demonstrate this. The thing to bear in mind is that's 40 quid up. And we're going back to 1991 here. 40 quid, that's 27 years ago. That's a reasonable little chunk of cash. 40 quid up. And there's a limit, of course, to how much money these machines had in them. And you can see there, kind of what I said before, is that each cycle is going to bag you. At the low end, I think the worst I had was about 16 quid. High end I had, I think, about 24-ish, something like that. So your range is maybe 15 to 25 quid. You take it round that cycle, RAM reset, enhanced period, little bit dead, enhanced period, RAM reset it at the right time on the tail end of that, go back to the start, do it again. Each cycle, let's average it out at 20 quid. How much are you going to be able to take out of a single machine? I don't know, 60, 80 quid, something like that. I mean, this video is just coming up to 40 minutes long, and I'm 40 quid up, and I've been doing a lot of blabbing. I haven't been doing it as efficiently as I could be. So you're earning over £1 a minute. So let's say that's £60 an hour. Worst case scenario, 60 quid an hour in 1991. That's not a bad. That'd be a perfectly nice rate of pay now, let alone in 1991. And this is a full empty. So I'm not going to go round again here because I think we've seen it happen. The one final thing that I will just demonstrate for you, I think, is just to show what happens when in fact, what I will do, there we are. Let's actually get, okay, that's fine. Let's get a £4.80 win in the bank. You can see my stat. It's running at 136% on this session, 108% overall. It's now more over percentage than when I started. Now, the other thing that I'll just demonstrate for you here is what happens when you do a reset on it or you plug it. So let's say that we were plugging this machine. It's not adding a win into the bank. We've got a win on the reels and we've got 1 credit. Watch what happens when we plug it in that scenario, and you will see that it is very, very specifically when you've got a win adding into the bank. It's going to spin to the mixed moons and then it'll kind of remember where it was up to and it'll go back to where we were. And you see there, I've got my £4.80 bank and I've got my 1 credit. So it is absolutely specifically the plug or the reset when it is adding a win into the bank. It does that RAM reset, you get your mixed moons on the reels, and then you've got a machine that's got about, let's say, 20 quid profit in it. Doesn't take that long to do, and then you can just go round again, repeat, rinse, wash, repeat until you have emptied the machine. I've achieved a profit of over £1 a minute there, and I've been yammering along a bit. So you can see there, full empty, no doubt about it. And yeah, this was a thing. This was a thing, and people did it. And the guy who passed this over to me said, apparently even some of the 2p ROM sets this worked on as well. It was around for a long time on these blue moons. Something vulnerable in the code stuck around for a long time. I'm sure a lot of people made very good money out of it. I had no idea whatsoever. Now there's nothing to be uploaded to Desert Island Fruits or anything like this to the RAM and GAM file area. Just grab this super duper. It's always lovely to have a POOK DX to play. Just grab this POOK DX. These are the ROMs that have been running in this layout for years, and you can just try that for yourself. I think we've established the principle there. That figure there, the your profit and loss per session will just keep going up in your favour, and the machine's overall payout will just keep going up as well. It's now at 108.75%. So there you go. An emptier on an old £4.80 low tech. Who'd have thought it? There you go. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, found it interesting. I personally love these old ones because it's opening my eyes to stuff that I just had no idea about at the time, and kind of fills in the blanks of like, okay, it makes sense now. I understand why I lost so much money all the time. So there you go. Like I say, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope to see you next time. And at some point, I'm hoping to get my actual voice back properly as well. I'm a little bit crackly here, so I'll sign off for now. Cheers for watching. See you next time.